I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite Of,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and we
one nibble.
enjoy it one nibble at a time.
Dear God.
I was like thinking of like, oh, but we're reviewing, so is it current? And I just kind of ended up discombobulating my own brain.
It was like you got a time twister.
I really did.
Not a tongue twister, a time twister.
A time twister.
Today, very exciting, right? October, spooky season started. So we got that going. Loki's coming back. Season 2, the first MCU show to get a second season.
It's pretty impressive.
Very exciting. Mm-hmm. Very, very exciting. Tons of other spooky things that are coming out. But we covered the first season. Of course, we're going to be talking about the second season. And this episode is really a refresher for us, but also for you. You just have to listen to it.
Feel free to go back and listen to the other 6 episodes that we did 2 years ago, and also listen to this one.
Yeah, we usually do a before you watch, but technically you could listen to that. But now we have other stuff to kind of get us up to the current Loki season, even though the second season takes place right after the first one. So this is going to be interesting.
But I mean, what is time? So does it really take place directly after the first one?
It flows differently at the TVA. Mobius said that many times.
There's so many branches right now.
Before we dive into the sacred timeline that is now shattered, apparently.
Good
Make
job,
sure
Sylvie.
You're following us on all the social media platforms. We're on there. We got a Patreon. Exclusive bonus episodes. We just did Before the MCU Hulk. So that is out now. 2003 Hulk. That was fun. It was fun.
So many green properties right now. We're really in a green moment here at A Bite Of.
Spooky season is green.
Like a zombie. All right. So let us officially take a bite of the Loki season 1 recap.
It's like a recap, refresher. We're going to time twist ourselves a little back. Talk about season 1.
Yeah.
So spoilers, lots of spoilers.
For the entire first season of Loki.
Hopefully. Will we hit all points? Probably.
Maybe. I mean, how long would this actually be if we hit every single point from Loki season 1?
Well, most of our episodes for the 6 episodes that we covered are about an hour, so about 6 hours long. At least.
With a show that is about 54 minutes long at a time.
Yeah.
I did used to do special segments back then. So
that is true.
So if you want to learn about different trickster gods from around the world, tune into the end of those episodes.
All right. So looking back at season 1, they incorporated the time travel that we got from Endgame really well into giving us a season of Loki, but then just expanding the universe because they were getting ready for phase 4. It was kicking that off. It was kicking off the multiverse. Who better to give us hints and a little background than the God of Mischief?
Mr. Mischief.
Yeah.
And what's crazy to think of that this particular Loki that we're hanging out with just sort of disappeared.
Yeah.
Right? And no one had any idea where he was for quite some time until we got to this Loki. And I think what I love so much about Loki itself is that we get to see the God of Mischief kind of evolve as a being. I didn't want to say human because he's a god.
He's an Asgardian.
Yeah, but
Or he's a frost giant, but yeah, whatever.
He was adopted. It's fine. Yeah. And so we get to see this character who Tom Hiddleston just plays so perfectly really get thrown into a completely new environment where he has no control over anything. Because in the TVA, he can't use his powers.
Right. Yeah, I really liked that they gave us a shot from the 2012 Avengers movie and caught us up. The only thing that initially, when I was first watching this, I was like, well, how are they going to take the Avengers Loki, who is evil at that point? He was trying to do world domination, and then bring it into a show where he's likable. Granted, Tom Hiddleston, if it wasn't for him, I don't think Loki would be as beloved as he is. But they did the like sneaky thing in storytelling where you literally just plop the character in front of a TV and show them everything that would have happened. So it kind of brought him more to the Loki we know, but he's a little different. He has his own little things that he needs to get over.
Yeah, it made me think, what would it really be like to see the rest of your life in about a 15-minute film?
I don't want it.
I don't think I want it either.
No, because I would try everything. If it didn't end well, I know. Watch, it's like not even 15 minutes. It's like 10 more minutes. And you're like,
right. They're like, actually, right after that, it was over. No.
That's awful.
Yeah, it is really awful. So by making that decision to pick up the Tesseract, Loki becomes what is known as a variant. And so a variant is a version of you that has gone off the sacred timeline. So he really wasn't supposed to pick up that Tesseract, but because he did, he got thrown into the TVA and was shown all that stuff. What I love so much about this new environment is not only the characters, but we're kind of thrown into a place where there's all new technology and just a little bit of talking about how they designed this world. It feels like a futuristic office set in the 60s.
It's so smart. It's like that future retro feel. And I like from what we know of the second season, right? It does feel like the color palette is a little different. In this one, we got very much like tans and oranges, especially when they TVA. And then when we go outside of it, it's very like purpley and green. It's such a good way to tell a story, but using like color gradation. It's so good.
Yeah, it really was so well executed. And within that first moment of being with Loki in the TVA, we get introduced to TemPads and time doors and batons and reset charges and everything that pruning that the TVA uses to kind of, I guess, create and keep the sacred timeline.
Yeah, the TVA is a very interesting bureaucratic organization that, as we know after the first season, it very much there's other TVAs. It could change depending on what one of the Kangs wants to happen with it. And I like that they not only introduce this side of Marvel, but it's almost kind of like if they did more seasons, they can really do anything that they want. It just really depends on the kind of story they want to tell. And as the season kind of progresses, you see that there's a lot of it is just illusions. But it's a really fun way to do that because regardless of the illusions, the time doors, the TVA, the pruning, all of that stuff still exists. So it's just cool technology to have in the repertoire of the MCU.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm still waiting for that cosmic train ride that they took in the original Fantastic Four issue where the TVA was first introduced.
We might get it.
Fingers crossed. There was a train in season 1, but it wasn't flowing through the TVA like it did in the comic book. One of the characters who I love so much that is sort of half character, half tech is Miss Minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right. So Miss Minutes is sort of the delightful voice that's welcoming you to the TVA, that's letting you know what it's all about. But I mean, I know she's not sentient, but it almost feels like she is, right?
Do we know that she's not?
Yeah.
I think she is. I mean, she seems to be some type of thing, obviously created by He Who Remains, or a Kang of some sort, because we know she's in the second season, right? And she seems to have a bigger part, or she's more involved.
They show a thing in the trailer where she almost has like a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man moment where she's like stomping through some city.
It's amazing.
Very much looking forward to that.
But we know that towards the end of season 1, that she knows the secret. She knows everything because she could download all the files. She knows all that stuff. So she has more knowledge than she's letting on, but it's all part of that facade, right?
Yeah.
It's all part of knowing that the TVA is actually just filled with variants. She already knew that. So she's just playing along with whatever the big boss is doing. I'm just very excited for Tara Strong. Any more Tara Strong is a very good thing.
The world always needs more Tara Strong. I mean, she's just a part of everyone's childhood at this point in time. And yeah, I really think that we got to see that she was much more than just a pre-programmed thing. And I'm excited to see where she goes.
We also can't not forget one of the best scenes in season 1, which takes place in the very last episode when Loki and Sylvie finally get to the Citadel of He Who Remains, and she just does the jump scare. And she's like, "Hi, guys." And so good.
She knows the games that she's playing. She's doing it on purpose.
That's the fun thing, though, about the show. It's that even though this show takes a concept of the multiverse and sacred timeline, and what does that mean? What is free will? What is glorious purpose? But the cast is so small, and I think that's to its benefit, at least the characters that it wants to focus on. So we really get to sit with these characters and see how they go through that stuff. But having characters like Miss Minutes and having these concepts just make it so cool. And I can't wait to see if they're going to change anything with that, because we know we have a new TVA or some version of it. So exactly what is that variant of the TVA going to look like?
Yeah. And I wonder how much of the second season is going to be Loki trying to convince everyone who he is and what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of the episode, I think we'll talk more about what we hope for season 2, but I'm hoping that
I don't want to live too much into that.
Yeah, because we already had the character to development. I don't need him taking Mobius and Hunter B-15 into a theater and being like, here is our progress, guys.
Watch this. Everybody's reliving their lives, figure everything out again. Yeah, I don't think we need that either. But just thinking of, that idea of glorious purpose and Loki, this version of Loki, realizing that maybe he has a different purpose than he always thought he did. Because when he's brought to the TVA, Mobius wants to use him to help track down another Loki variant.
Right.
And so in the beginning, there's that struggle with Loki of being like, okay, do I go along with it? Do I not go along with it? Do I pretend that I'm interested, but I'm really not? But that really introduces us to wondering who this Loki variant is.
Yeah, the first season really does a good job of taking our Loki and having him battle with a bunch of concepts that Loki that we knew in Avengers would very much like. And one of the reasons, I think it's in the first episode, maybe the second episode, he starts wanting to play along with the TVA because he sees that they're just the most powerful thing in the universe, and he wants to know how can they have so many Infinity Stones as paperweights and they just don't do anything.
Right.
So it is a fun journey to see this Loki develop from Avengers Loki all the way to the Loki that we get that is in love with a version of himself, but also what does glorious purpose mean now for him, and how does he take down Kang? Because it's not right. It's not right. But then the whole concept of sacred timeline, right? Free will. It's a really cool concept to think about. But Sylvie, she is an interesting one because we see in the first season that she was taken as a child. And so she's had no free will this whole time because she's been hunted down by the TVA and by Renslayer this entire time. So when she finally gets to that decision of, you can take my place and be the god that you're always meant to be, or just mess everything up. So it's like the revenge or do bad things, but for a good reason. It's an interesting thing for her.
I like Sylvie. Well, I think everybody likes Sylvie. I don't think there's a reason to not like Sylvie, but Sylvie has such, again, purpose here. She is fighting for the life that was taken away from her. And so she needs to figure out a way to kind of bring the TVA down or to mess it up to get revenge on them. And so she's going through these Nexus events and taking down teams of hunters that are coming after her and is succeeding in that. And I think that's where her strength comes in. But it's interesting that at first we're seeing her as an adversary, but then she does become an accomplice and a team member, but also you don't know if you can really trust Sylvie.
I mean, I want to go back to kind of what she said in the last episode when Loki and Sylvie are given the options by He Who Remains of either do my job or kill me. Which one do you want to do? Obviously, Loki wants to do the job because, why would he want to mess everything up? And maybe this is what he was meant to do. And then Sylvie, she's spent so much time on the run and this is her main purpose. But I think in the grand scheme of things that maybe Sylvie had the right kind of motive, but maybe it wasn't the right way to do it, right? And it's like, I don't blame her for wanting to take down this facade in these lies. And that was her biggest thing in the first season. It was like, it's all lies. It's lies and nobody knows about this. So let me show all these people. Because she did that with Hunter C20, I think that was the name. And, even though she was just trying to get information, there was some kind of kindness behind it. And she got to see her as a human and before she became a TVA agent. So it's an interesting thing that I think Loki and Sylvie both do, just in a little different ways.
It's almost like with the both of them, the question of, are they truly evil or are they acting in a specific way for a real reason that is very true to them? With Sylvie, she is killing these hunters as they're coming after her, but it's for that ultimate goal to give her some of her own free will back and to take these down this organization that's taking away people's free wills, even if they're just children.
Yeah, I mean, he who remains calls her a hypocrite because he's like, you killed how many people just to get to me? So don't come to me and tell me how I'm doing things wrong. I mean, granted, he's like destroying entire realities and different timelines, and she's just trying to get to him. But murder is murder, guys. It's just, and they're variants, which makes it also worse because all their memories were right. So
Right. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about Loki and Sylvie's relationship and what it is. Right. So this season of Loki it solidifies Loki as being bisexual.
Right.
In the MCU, which was very cool. We see that in a conversation between the two of them on a train while they're trying to escape a doomed planet.
Lamentous one.
It was very purpley.
That was probably my favorite episode of that entire season. So good.
And we do really get to see them share who they are and what they've been going through. But we do have this moment where they manage to create a Nexus event just by talking to each other by a lake.
Well, they're connecting, right? It's like, Sylvie, I think up until that point didn't fully trust him because, he had the TemPad and she jumped out of the window just to get the TemPad. It wasn't necessarily for him.
Right.
But I think at that moment, she's starting to see him as a person and be like, okay, we're in this together. That's not usually what happens with Lokis, at least not these two Lokis, because they've both been on their own for so long. I don't mind that they like each other. I don't mind that there could be romantic, whatever. Yes, they're the same person, but they're not the same person. Like, it's not, it's interesting, right? Because it's like, you're not related to them.
Right.
Because they are you. So it's like the most glorious form of self-love.
Self-pleasure.
Well, love. Come on.
Well, no, I'm obviously just joking. The thing when they share that kiss in the last episode, right? It felt like it really took it over the line. But then I was thinking of, is this just an example of self-acceptance?
Yeah, maybe.
Right? I mean, if we want to think about it poetically rather than romantically, it's just these two beings that are the same person finally looking at each other and saying, I accept you for who you are and I love you.
Why can't it be both?
Well, sure it can. I just know if it weirds people out, I'm just saying think of it the other way.
Yeah. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Just like Loki said.
It is weird.
They're
They're not cousins.
No.
You know?
Ew.
They're the same.
Okay. Speaking of variants and other people that we meet at the TVA, Mobius M. Mobius. Mr. Owen Wilson.
Played fantastically.
It's so good. People obviously get excited when Owen Wilson is in a thing because he's a great actor. And typically you either love him or you hate him. This one, I think he really won people over. And it's kind of exciting to see like the younger generation finding these actors that we kind of grew up with because they're in a Marvel property. But, all they had to do was just make them like jet skis and really love Loki for who he was.
I just love his look in this. I know that sounds so silly, but like the cool white gray hair, always perfectly coiffed, and he's always wearing his delightfully tan suits.
It's a time agent, daddy.
100%. He is zaddy all the way. I think with Mobius and Mobius as a character, when we meet him, he's doing his job, right? He's been doing it for eons. And right now they're going through this moment where there's a variant out there and he takes an opportunity to befriend Loki and kind of ask Loki to help him with what's going on.
I think that he asks very interesting questions at the beginning and he's really just trying to figure this Loki out, but he really asks him questions. Like he's like, I want to know what makes you tick, but are you evil? Why do you do these things? And I don't think Loki's ever been asked those questions. So it was really funny to see this kind of desk dude, this analyst, ask this god that we were supposed to be scared of in Avengers these questions and Loki stumbling over the answers. So I think right from the jump, it's like, okay, this Mobius guy, there's more to him, but he's also a good dude.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for him.
I think that in order to get to where he is in the TVA, he must go through psychology courses. He must go through philosophy courses.
No, they just wipe their memory and here you go.
He knows the right questions to ask someone to figure out what makes them tick. Pun intended from TVA. Got it?
I think we all got it. We all got that one.
But you like Mobius because Mobius is willing to take a chance and try some new things to get to the bottom of what's going on. And I think that obviously goes against someone like Ravonna Renslayer's kind of MO, which is, no, these are the rules. This is what happens. You get pruned, and that's that.
She, Renslayer is a very interesting character. In the comics, she's a little different than she is now, kind of. There's a bunch of betrayal and everything that happens with her. I'm excited to see where she goes from here. The last time we saw her, she spared Mobius again after she pruned him the first time. And when he asks where she's going, she's saying to seek free will. And I think what that means is that she's trying to find the person that is running this whole thing. Because prior in a conversation, she's talking about the only person that has free will is the person that's running all of this. So I'm curious if, she's not bad. She's not good. I feel like she's just the most brainwashed. Like she's really delved into this idea of what the TVA is supposed to be. And I think it's an interesting thing for us to think about. Is it the correct thing, or is it just these gods or these people that happen to get there first that are just playing with things they probably shouldn't play with? Because what was it like before them? All these Kangs and all these different variants created this big multiversal war because of them. It wasn't because of the variants. They decided to do it. But now they're trying to determine what the correct path is. And I think that's stuff they shouldn't be messing with.
And one thing that's interesting is right before she goes off on her own, Renslayer, she is given files in her temp pad. But my question is, what could he who remains actually be feeding her?
Well, if that was even him, right?
Well, right. Miss Minutes said, we're downloading this. And, from what I thought, he gave Miss Minutes the,
See, they didn't say who,
direction.
Though,
right.
Because we know she's in the second season and she's with Victor Timely, who is a variant of Kang that we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Sure.
Quantumania. And we know he's in the second season. So it's like, is she an entity that also has variants, or does she work for the Council of Kangs or whoever's currently winning, right?
Is it one of those things that no matter which of the timelines, she's always worked
probably
for a version of Kang?
Probably.
Right? So, but that's the question is, who is she off to right now? This version in the TVA, what information was she given on her temp pad, and how is she going to use it either for, the Loki team or for her own, justification?
Probably the latter.
Yeah.
Most likely. Or I have faith in her, right? It's like most of the people in this show, even though they seem like to be villains in the first place, like Hunter B-15, turn into, once they kind of are waken up or unbrainwashed a little bit, they understand like this isn't okay. And we need to find answers and we need to stop this. So I'm hoping when she gets a dose of reality, whatever that might be, that she kind of comes to the better side, because it would be really cool to have Loki, Mobius, Sylvie, Hunter B-15, and Renslayer on a team together up against a Kang. I'd like that very much. She's very good with the pruning stick.
She sure is. I mean, in that last moment, Mobius is tired, right? He just got back from the void.
He's not a fighter.
He's been through a lot. He was riding around in that pizza van, and he gets there and he lunges at her once, and she's like, does some quick moves, and she like throws him on the floor. She's like, enough.
He's an analyst. For eons, he never learned how to fight. Or maybe he didn't really want to fight her, because there is a bit of, they love each other or like each other. And I think they both do, but she's on the opposite side right now. She's like, I don't have time for that.
Well, it's this interesting dichotomy, right, of someone who's choosing the agency over the person versus the person who wants to choose the person over the agency.
Right.
So they're just going in two different directions, but they still have the same feelings for each other. And for her, it seems much more like, I need to find out what's going on here for my own sense.
Well, she would have been more likely to encourage whatever's happening with them if he just went along with it and he believed it, right? And just blindly followed her. But that's not who Mobius is now. He's been awakened away from that.
Right. Speaking of awakened, and you mentioned them, Hunter B-15. So they're awesome, right? When we meet them, they feel very much like a foot soldier. They are just there to serve the TVA. They know what they have to do. They're pruning, they're doing everything. They're taking variants, they're capturing them. But by the end of it, when they get a glimpse into what their life kind of could have been or was, or who they once were, that emotion of seeing that it's all fake, immediately they know we need to stop this.
Yeah, and they go on a mission to show other members. I do like how she's the first pretty much TVA agent that we see, and she showcases the power that they have. She makes Loki go at 1/16th speed, puts a time twister collar around him, and it's like, okay, she's pretty badass. But when she does see those moments, I love that when she takes Sylvie back to that Nexus event with the shopping mall and the hurricane. It's a very good scene. And I like that they took time to show that, because I think it's important to show those types of scenes with this. And it's not just like, oh, you're a variant. Okay. But showing like where they came from, that they were a person. And I'm hoping that we get to see more of her life. We get a glimpse in the trailer that she might have been like a doctor or a nurse or something like that. So I'm curious to see where she's from, because we know Renslayer's from 2018. And I'm curious where B-15 is from.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. And I really do hope that we get a glimpse into their lives to really know who they are and where they come from, because that's the reality that they have to deal with, of knowing who they could have been, but where they actually are now. So I think that's really exciting. Another person who works at the TVA who has such a small part is Casey.
Yeah.
He's what? A desk guy, right?
Yeah,
he does
just
like
pushes
paperwork.
Shit.
Yeah, exactly.
He was great. I mean, I think a lot of people fell in love with him, and I'm very excited that he's now a series regular. He's not just a guest star, and he's only in like one episode and then 2 minutes of another one. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing more Casey. Exactly what his involvement is, I'm curious. But it looks like they're kind of just opening up the pool of people involved with this, because it looks very much from the trailer that we've seen and everything that we know that it's going to be going back and forth between the TVA and different timelines and stuff like that. So I'm happy. More Casey. He's great.
Yeah, he's going to be part of a subunit that's going to be going off in another direction. That's my thought.
Really hope that he finds out what a fish is.
Aw.
Because he doesn't know.
Wouldn't it be sad if he actually was a fisherman or someone who loved fishing and they had to wipe it out?
He was probably a marine biologist. Like, how much you want to bet that they're just going to pull at our heartstrings, and it's like his whole entire life he loved fish, and they wiped that from him.
They sure did. They're so evil.
They wiped it from him.
Why, Kang? Why?
So the first season really set up, it's interesting, right? It's like for most of the season, it's like we need to get this variant. They're going to make, the multiverse, whatever, and they're going to send everything into madness. And then it flips when you start finding out, okay, this place isn't really what it is. And then by the end of it, because it's a timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly show, it reverts back to the beginning. So the last thing that we see is Loki back at the TVA after Sylvie pushes him through the door, and Mobius and Hunter B-15 are right there. But it's not the timekeepers that are the statues everywhere. It's Kang himself. So they don't know who he is. I'm very interested to see how they're going to go about that. I know that they're going to be looking for Sylvie, right? They're going to be looking for Kang because he's the orchestrator behind all this. And then also getting everybody else back up to speed.
Yeah. It looks like, right, they're going to be going back in time and finding one of the original versions of Kang, and seeing where he came from. And I think in this new version of the TVA, it's like, well, why in this one is Kang the statue, right? Why did this Kang decide that he gets to be the figurehead and not hide behind the timekeepers?
Well, Sylvie, when she killed him, he was like, I'll see you soon. An interesting thing is, and the confusing thing about this whole variant and the multiverse and everything is this He Who Remains, or is this a different Kang that just replaced He Who Remains? Or was there another TVA this whole time? It's a very interesting concept. I'm curious to see what happens. Like, Loki season 1 started the multiverse, and then we got Multiverse of Madness, we got Quantumania, we got all these other movies and TV shows and everything. This one, it seems like it's going to very much lead to Avengers Kang Dynasty, and I kind of like that they're using Loki as the vehicle for it, and just for us to understand how it works in the background, right? Instead of just like showing all this stuff, but it's kind of fun to have Loki show us this stuff. And then when we get to the movie, we kind of have understanding of the multiverse and who Kang is.
It's wild to think that we're going to have a whole other season of Loki, and they're not going to be defeating Kang.
No, I mean, how can
right?
you?
If it's leading to the Avengers movie that's going to be about Kang, then that means what is actually going to be happening in this season 2, just uncovering more mysteries, maybe figuring out who the Kang is that they need to destroy, or seeing what plan he's about to unhatch that we would need the Avengers for. So it's like, what is the ultimate goal of season 2 of Loki?
Yeah, finding answers and then more questions after those answers. But I'm just very excited for them to find Sylvie again, right? It's like, where did she go after everything happened? You know, obviously she left the Citadel. We've seen her in the McDonald's marketing.
She's like a cashier, right?
Yeah, why not? She's been on the run forever. She just wants a job.
Now she's just hiding out in the most day-to-day mundane places.
Yeah, I'm here for it. And I'm very excited for there's a shot, right, that we saw with the jet ski dealership. If Mobius is not there and or Loki does not buy Mobius a jet ski, very upset, and we should not be getting any more Loki after
there
that.
Better be a jet ski chase scene or something like that. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just foolishness. Absolute foolishness.
Yeah.
In the trailer, we also see what looks to be a new department of the TVA, and we meet Obi.
I'm very excited to know what TBA stands for, though.
Time, better authority. Making your time better.
Okay. Yes, Obi. Yeah, I'm very, very excited for Obi. He's in the repair and advancements department, and it seems like he's very much like fixes things and makes things better and or not. And the only scene that we get from him is Mobius bringing Loki there because he's time slipping, which seems very much to mimic what we saw in Across the Spider-Verse, and like him being in other universes and he glitches out.
Glitching out.
So it seems like the same concept, which is nice because we're familiar with it, right? So he goes to Obi and he's like, can you fix him? And he's like, this isn't supposed to happen. He's like, yeah, but it's happening. He's like, can you fix it? He's like, no.
Sometimes the answer is just that simple. Yeah. It's just no.
And I also love that the actor has been in different multiversal movies so far. I'm very, very excited.
He truly is the king of the multiverse at this point in time.
Yeah, best character and Everything Everywhere All at Once, and now he's going to win hearts in Loki.
Hopefully he gets an Emmy out of this. Or another Golden Globe.
Yeah, I think it's Golden Globe, right?
Well, he could get Golden Globe is for movies and TV, Emmy is for TV. So he could get a whole other pair of awards.
He will. I'm hoping he's in it more, or maybe he's just the Casey and he's in it for a little bit and then it comes back. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that he's more in it than Casey was in the first season.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. So I think that's really it. Anything else you want to mention that you think we and our listeners should know about season 1 going into season 2?
I just think maybe there's a hope. This is just a hope that we get to meet even more Lokis.
Oh, I would be surprised if we don't see another variant of some sort.
Because we learn in season 1 that when you get pruned, you just go to this place called the Void, which is just like a giant junkyard. And we met a whole bunch of other Lokis there, which is which was such a fun episode to watch. So I'm hoping to see more Lokis.
Right. I am too. More Lokis. I'm very excited to see if we see other variants of characters that we know, right? It would be actually really funny if they showed a variant of Chris Evans as Captain America.
Yes.
Just like randomly and whatever. I think that would make people's would lose their mind.
Whoa. Yeah. What about you? Is there anything that you think folks should know?
No, I think, I'm excited. This is probably one of my favorite MCU shows that they've come out with. The thing I'm most excited for, not necessarily that you need to know, but most excited for is the composer coming back. Natalie Holt is coming back to compose this season as well. There's a different director. The writers are kind of the same, and the co-directors actually did 2 episodes of Moon Knight, so kind of fresh off of an MCU property. But Natalie Holt coming back as the composer is just the music, guys. I love the music. I'm very excited to see if they change it, how they're going to change it for season 2. Like, I'm sure we'll get familiar tones and notes, but it's a different time, it looks like, that we're going to. So we'll see. That's what I'm very excited for.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm looking forward to more crazy time devices, more time hopping. Loki also had a lot of humor in it, which I'm sure we're going to get more of here. So I'm just really excited for season 2.
Okay. Well, that was a very quick time twister recap, refresher, things you should know, whatever, of Loki season 1 going into Loki season 2.
All right. So see you on the other side, people.
Our episode of Loki season 2, episode 1 comes out Saturday. So look for it then. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to A Bite of. Artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at A Bite of Pod, and on Facebook at A Bite of. If you have any questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can contact us on abiteofpod.com. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to spread the word. See you next time on A Bite of. Bye.